Welcome to Tax Strategy Digest, where we explore the fascinating world of finance. Join us as we dive into the stories, insights, and experiences of experts, thought leaders, and everyday people who are making a difference in this field. Through engaging conversations and thought-provoking discussions, we'll take a deep dive into the latest research, trends, and innovations shaping finance. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn something new on this exciting journey with us. Today, our guest is Patrick Roberts, who is a licensed attorney for over 21 years, has over 2 decades of real estate and business ownership, is an experienced car wash operator, and is currently working as a business broker selling hotels, car washes, professional practices, and other businesses. Great to have you here, Patrick.
Fantastic to be here, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.
Definitely. And Patrick, I'll let you go ahead, and as we get started here, you can tell us a little bit about your story, your upbringing, and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, great. So, interestingly, I'm originally from Jamaica. I know you hear the accent, right? Grew up in Brooklyn, actually. Moved to Brooklyn when I was, I think, about 5 or 6 years old. High school there, and then went off to college in Maryland. I'm a Johns Hopkins Blue Jay, still a diehard lacrosse fan. Ironically, I ended up going to Duke, another lacrosse school, but really more so I could watch some basketball games. Law school at Duke, graduated, and I've been practicing for, as you said, about actually just a little over 21 years, actually a little over 20 years. I think it's 20 years. I'm not even sure. It all runs together after a
Yep.
while. I actually owned two law firms, two litigation law firms simultaneously. And I've actually been in the process of exiting those firms as I move over into the car wash space, the business brokerage space, pretty much full time. So a big change, but definitely exciting.
Awesome. And what is it about the car wash space that you find so attractive?
Well, I actually had been I'm invested in real estate for 20 plus years. I started in rental homes, then went into multifamily and apartments, and actually owned a mobile home park for over a decade as well. And I found that a lot of times you really couldn't count on the rental properties or multifamily to be consistent when it came to cash flow. One year could be great. The next year, tenants kick a hole in the wall and do all kinds of other things that we can't speak of on family programming, right? And then basically your projections, your cash flow, all out the window. You know, Still a great asset class. Don't to be sure, I made a lot of money in multifamily and with the apartments, but I wanted more consistency. I was looking for something else that was, I guess, a little off the beaten path, right? And in 2020, I expected rate increases. I was way ahead of the curve. Mr. Powell and I didn't see eye to eye on that, but I just felt like rates were just too low for too long. Having been through multiple downturns, I thought there's no way we're going to be able to stay at 3-4%, 5%, sub 5. It just didn't seem right. So I sold my apartment complexes. Okay. And then I was looking for something else. And I'd always been interested in the car wash space. To be specific, I do not do the standard things that I think many people are familiar with, like express car washes or full service. Okay. Express car washes, we all know you get a membership, you can wash unlimited, the vacuums are generally free. That's not what I do, because that space is also crowded. The multifamily space had gotten crowded. The apartment space remains crowded. Everyone's syndicating, right? I mean, I'm sure you're syndicating too. You just haven't told me yet, right? So, basically at
Yeah.
this point, I'm looking for something new. In 2020, I buy my first car wash. It's one of the ones where it's called self-service. One of the locations where the user does everything themselves. Use the wand, vacuum the car themselves, all those things. We've all seen them, right? They usually, you drive by them, you wonder, should you stop, or is there a possibility you might get robbed? I mean, you're just not really sure what your alternatives are. So you see them, you think maybe someone's making money, but you're not sure. They're never super packed, but they're always there, right? I got into one of those. And it's one of the best investments I've ever owned. I've owned, 40, 50 different types of apartments. I also did commercial, still have some commercial buildings, commercial office space. But this is the most consistent cash flow I've ever encountered. Okay. It's not recurring in the sense that there's a subscription, but the customers are loyal. As long as you have equipment that's working, you're in a solid location, have good visibility, they come week in, week out, day in, day out. You can kind of predict your revenue stream based on seasons. I mean, when it's pollen season, everyone's there. When summer and the people are traveling, bugs are on the car. They're coming to clean the car off from bugs. I've got a lot of boaters who come and they scrub down their boats after they've been on the lake, or it's just a very easy to run and very predictable business. And when we're talking cash flow, we're literally talking cash flow, like, dollars, coins, there's something about having that money in hand. I own a mobile home park, so I certainly know about collecting cash too, but not like this. This is a different dynamic completely.
Nice. And so let me ask you this. Is it mostly absentee for all of these, or is yours completely absentee? Kind of what's your level of involvement?
I practice law. I can't fix anything. Okay. I mean, when I tell you I go to my washes, I don't actually know how to use most of the equipment at the wash. I'm not lying. This is not made for television, my friend. I am telling you the truth. I have no idea how to use most of the equipment. And so I try not to touch anything because I feel like I'll just break it. I've got like the reverse Midas touch, you know? So basically it's for me, it's almost all absentee. I've set up a system where I monitor everything either, on my phone or on my laptop. So I'm on the cameras, we've configured all the equipment, the vacuums, the bays, the wash bay equipment. It counts the money, counts the coins, it counts the change that goes in, and it counts the credit card transactions. So I can know in real time at any given location how I'm doing, and I'm about 2 hours away from my closest wash. And typically, I visit maybe I'm going to say I'm going to say basically around maybe once every 2 months. I've gone as many as 4 months without going to visit. I'm not advocating that. That's not probably not good management, but that's the truth. There's sometimes I simply don't go, but I have a team in place, and that's one of the keys. If you develop when you develop a system and you have the right people, you kind of have to network a little bit. As with everything, if you're running an apartment complex and you get a great property manager, you can rest assured that everything's taken care of, right? You get your statements, you'll get your reports on who's late or evictions and all those sorts of things, and you can live in Oregon and run it and run a property in New York. But it's much the same, except car washes are a little bit more hands on. You need to have people there every single day, okay, because things break. People complain about equipment that's not working. Things need to be fixed. Cleaning needs to happen just to make sure. There's no real marketing involved at all. I mean, frankly, I've never spent a marketing dollar in any of these places, but you've got to make sure the curb appeal and the cleanliness is maintained. As long as that happens, you're in great shape.
Okay, and what about tax advantages? Are there any tax advantages for investing in car washes?
Well, thanks to our former president, a fantastic man, if I do say so myself, when it comes to taxes, the bonus depreciation gift continues to give, time and again. You're a tax guy, so you'll appreciate this. Until last year, we had 100% bonus depreciation. So, and to be honest with you, I didn't buy it for this reason. I actually stumbled on this when my accountant told me, and he had to revive me afterwards. Kind of slapped me a few times when I was on the floor. I mean, I knew about bonus depreciation, but I kind of assumed the car washes were basically real estate. So you'd have to do a cost segregation analysis. You get maybe 30, 40% off the cost seg, and it still would be good, but not like this, right? Under the code, depending on how your accountant wants to allocate your the different assets at the car wash, anything that's not dirt can be written off. So for me and my accountant, we're aggressive. We write off 90% of a purchase price, or at least allocate 90% to equipment. The building, technically, the way the code deals with car washes, they treat car washes like they're gas stations, right? Structurally they sort of look similar, right? The pillars and the awning and overhang and everything, but essentially the building is depreciable at a 15-year rate or less. The wiring, the plumbing, all of the equipment, 15 years or less. As long as it's 15 years or less under the code, you can take the bonus in year one. So I was buying property and literally writing off 90% of the purchase price in year one.
Wow.
Things have changed a little bit this year. Now we're down to 80%. And so there's a little bit of a step down. But if you do the math and allocate 10% to the land, we're talking about an additional 72% of the purchase price still can be depreciated in 2023, which is, we won't
Pretty good.
complain. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And for your listeners, I'm sure they're thinking, well, why don't I own one of these? Let me call
Yeah.
just it's an asset class that's been ignored. And private equity is very heavily involved in the express model, and that's how things differ. The self-serve model has not been, there haven't been any roll-ups yet. There aren't any funds that I'm aware of, any serious funds really trying to accumulate these in large numbers. Okay. But express models, they've been taking advantage of these things. But when the PE guys go in, they buy it or they build, and then they sell the land and continue to run the business. And that may or may not have the same types of advantages. I guess it really depends on whether they hold on to the equipment and consider that to be an asset on their books, or whether the seller or the buyer who purchases the property also owns not only the dirt, but also the equipment. Then in that case, the buyer is getting the tax advantage and the operator is simply running, a going concern. In this case, when you're running a self-serve, you're running the going concern, but you're also able, as the owner of the property in most cases, to take those tax advantages as well.
Awesome. And then straying a little off the car washes, maybe so aside from those, where would you start investing your money right now that would kind of provide that maximum cash return and maximum tax benefit? What are some alternatives?
So I think right now in April of 23, I'm very, very cautious. Okay. I have, as I said, I sold all of my apartments. I'm not in the apartment space anymore. But I see opportunities, and this is going to sound counterintuitive. We all know that offices and office buildings are really not a good class to be in right now.
Right.
Lots of vacancies. The whole work from home trend has really been difficult, to say the least, for investors. But I think that when you consider the medical office class A space, that's a different animal completely. You can't diagnose from the house, right? There's telemedicine. That's great for the sniffles and maybe a headache or something, and maybe some psychiatric care. But a doctor needs to be hands-on. A chiropractor needs to be hands-on. A dentist, if unless AI and technology can figure out how to send a robot to your house and extract teeth, maybe someday we can do the Jetson thing, possibly, but not happening these days, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity if I'm not in the car wash space, not the same level of cash flow, but a good consistent cash flow when you buy class A medical office spaces, triple net type leases that, guarantee your cash flow. Doctors aren't going anywhere. The typical doctor, I think, stays in their office space, at least 10 years, sometimes decades, unless they're going out and buying their own space. That's the only time they would vacate it. They have a good location. They're going to remain. Their patients, get accustomed to the location. They know where to go every year, every couple of months. That's where they go. It's a good space. they can't work from home, so you don't have that issue. And normally the real estate is close to a hospital, something that's an anchor, almost akin to a shopping center. You want to be in sort of the medical park or in that sort of vicinity. So I see the medical triple net opportunities. And of course, then you can take a cost segregation analysis and write off 30-40% of your purchase. It's not the greatest, but it's certainly attractive nonetheless. I think obviously your listeners and anyone trying to take advantage, of course, has some restrictions unless they qualify as a real estate professional. But that's a different conversation. I still see that though as being a good viable alternative if you're not in the car wash space.
Nice. And outside of the medical profession, what are some of the other best business opportunities you're seeing right now as a business broker?
To be honest, I will tell you there's a huge opportunity in a couple of areas. I really like hotels. Um, we're in the process of reinvigorating the hotel industry. I mean, COVID decimated it. People weren't really traveling. Business travel's not back yet. Okay. And so I think hotel prices are a little depressed. I think there are opportunities to get a quality acquisition now, in the major metros, in the destination areas where lots of commerce takes place, lots of tourism, and then ultimately sort of wait and ride the wave up as business travel eventually comes back. I'm not a firm believer in the idea that you can do business from a distance. You've got to at some point, for the quality deals, for the larger deals, you've got to, you know, there've got to be face-to-face interaction. That you've got to eyeball a person. You've got to sit down, have those discussions. When you're negotiating real deals, those things need to be done face to face. They can't be done by Zoom. And so I think there's going to be incredible and continue to be incredible opportunities in hotels. I have a lot of off-market hotel deals that I'm looking at that are available, but it requires the right buyer. But going back to the theme of your show with the whole tax advantage opportunity, anyone with 1031 money can do quite well in hotels, right? There's going to be this massive bonus depreciation opportunity. I mean, think about the numbers we're talking with hotels: 60, 100 million, low end 10 million, 15. Quality numbers for someone looking to try to get the tax advantage. But the income's also very consistent. You know, certain brands are just known to have very low default rates. I was looking at, I think it was an SBA list. It was either yesterday or the day before, and it was top 10 franchises that with the lowest default rates. And I expected to see a lot of the small players, the subways of the world, but Hampton Inn, Holiday Inn, those were on the list. Super 8 was on the list in
Wow.
the top 10, which is pretty incredible, frankly. Huge opportunities in hotels. That's one of the perfect absentee type dynamics. You buy the hotel, you hire a quality management team, and you just sit back and enjoy the perks. Accounting firms, ironically, something people wouldn't think of, as they say, what's the only thing that's sure? Death and taxes, right?
Yep.
The IRS is about to get about, what was it, $80 billion in new funding, primarily for enforcement. Period. I rest my business case on that alone. I mean, I don't even think you need to go any further. They're going to get $80 billion to hire an army of people to go in and hunt through tax returns. Okay, big, small, and indifferent. Small businesses, high net worth, and in your case, for your viewers, probably ultra high net worth individuals. All of those folks should be very concerned. Okay, and that means that their accountants need to be extremely good. And what I'm seeing is a lot of private equity, frankly, a lot of family offices are acquiring accounting firms, rolling them up, building larger entities, and strategically it makes sense, but from a business standpoint and a necessity standpoint, it's going to make sense too, because if you've got a large family office client portfolio as a as an advisor, you're going to need a firm with the ability to scale and deal with the complexity of their profile and their portfolio. And one guy or one gal or a small team of people, they're not going to be able to do that. And even the big four or big three or whatever number we're at this point, they can't do it all either, right? And frankly, a lot of ultra high net worth folks, a lot of high net worth folks don't really want to deal with the big box, if you will, firms. They want the personalized attention. They want to be able to call someone and know that their call will be taken and not like returned when you're in the queue. Just kind of things are just that's just not the level we play on. So accounting firms are huge. I'm actually selling and seeing a lot of law firms for much the same reason. On the tax side, on the HR side, on the business law side, even on the estate planning side, a lot of need for lawyers, and there's going to be, I think, a movement of firms. There was a big consolidation among the biggest firms for probably about 10, 15 years. I think at the next tier down and even the tier below that, you're going to see consolidation because it's going to be necessary for those smaller players to be able to compete.
Gotcha. And so it sounds like what you're trying to say is get a good CPA, get someone who's a good accountant, get your team in order.
It sounds like what I'm trying to say is if you're up against an $80 billion force, you better have some, you better have some frontline soldiers of your own, right? I mean, it almost feels like I don't know if you watch Lord of the Rings and the third battle for Gondor or what have you, and there's like a billion orcs and like 6 guys behind a wall. That's kind of what's coming, and you've got to be prepared. I mean, and so it's actually interesting. I don't know that many of the family offices that are buying accounting firms are really buying them for their own service, but it's not a bad idea to own your own accounting firm so that you have your personal team, at hand to address any issues that may come up. I mean, the tax code is complex, and who knows how more complex it's going to be in the next like 5 to 7 years. But with the enforcement effort coming, I think that's a big reason for people to be concerned.
I agree 100%. And let's see. So I know we're big on car washes. Do you personally, kind of getting back to that, but do you personally have any material or guidance or structure for anyone watching who's saying, hey, I want to get into this? Maybe they're going to try and call you. Maybe they want you to be their broker to help them out getting started in buying their first car wash. What would you advise of them, or do you have anything in place that might help?
Yeah, so actually, I am now coaching people on how to buy, fund, fix, run car washes.
Nice, no way.
It's my new system. I have a coaching program. I don't do it with a lot of people. I mean, I limit the cohorts to a very small group. I'm looking for experienced investors, qualified people who are really committed to learning, but they work directly with me to learn how to do exactly what I do, to evaluate deals, to find hidden gems, and to be able to get maximum ROI. I've got a wash that I actually revised and brought back to life in September of last year, and I was able to triple the revenue in just 3 months time at this wash that's been around for 40 plus years, because when you make the right repairs, you're able to really get a lot of benefit out of it. So Actually created, just because I knew we were going to be chatting, I created a page just so folks could could reach me. My domain is carwashwealth.com/podcast. So
Perfect.
if someone wants to make contact with me, they, for the purpose of me coaching them, get on that site, fill out the form and the information, set up a call, and I or someone on my team, we can chat with you and get things going. But if someone's looking for, an acquisition, they're welcome to, give me a call. I'm happy to share my email or my phone number. I don't know if you want me to do that or however
Yeah,
you want
Patrick, you can do that now, and I can also include it
to.
right below so that anybody reading or who's checking out the YouTube video, they can see it directly as well.
Sure. So anyone who wants to reach me, my number is 212-933-9696. That's my direct cell. Anyone who wants to email me, it's patrick.roberts@headstone.com. And I'm always available for conversation. I have a lot of listings that are off market in a variety of areas, the car wash area, as I mentioned, hotels. People can just give me a shout, and I'm happy to chat with them. Accounting firms, law firms, lawyers, call me. You're going to need to bone up because the IRS is coming. So it'll be a great. And I'm happy to chat with anyone who wants to talk taxes. I am a big tax guy. I'm a big deferred sales trust guy.
Nice.
I love it. It's just one of those things. I don't hate the IRS, but I don't feel like I need to give them all of my money either,
Right.
right? And
Yeah,
the law says you have the right to use the code appropriately, so why not?
exactly. No doubt. And Patrick, real quick before we wrap this up, I always like to end it off just by asking, what's your why? I want people to be able to get a chance to know you a little bit.
Well, so I was born in Jamaica, okay, and raised my mom, raised myself and my sister on her own. A single parent. We didn't have much growing up, so it was real important for us to get a good education, but also really to be in a position where we could help take care of her when the time came. Okay. As it turns out, she decided to get into real estate too. So she doesn't necessarily need me quite as much as, I thought she would growing up. But my why is just, I love to travel. My wife and I, we've, gone a few places. COVID slowed us down a little bit, but it's the travel is really where I want to be. I'm 47, and technically I'm about semi-retired. Is really that's the reality. I'm in another 3 years, I probably will do like 15 hours of work at most per week, and my car washes are going to take care of the rest. I'm not overly concerned, and I think everybody should be in a position where they can target that. Or if some people love to work, that's great. Practicing law for me, it really burned me out, so I needed to find an alternative. And once I got into the car wash business, I knew that that's where I could, hang my hat and feel real comfortable with the income and count on it. So that's really the why. I want to get out there and travel more. I haven't really been to Asia, and that's on my list. I haven't been to Africa. That's on my list. So those are the exciting things that I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Patrick, thank you so much for your time. If anyone is interested in reaching out to Patrick, go ahead and check out below. Patrick, thanks again.
Thanks, Paul.